Another major milestone for the Biden presidency. He is now failing on all fronts. The guy who promised competency has turned into a defective product Americans would like to return. Biden's average approval rating dropping below 40% for the first time. Maybe this is why. Here's how Joe's talking about record inflation.
The fact is that we're in a situation now where, you should have peace of mind. We're working to bring down prices where they're not totally what families, in fact, have to pay now.
Peace of mind. Sounds like his mind is in pieces. And it was probably tough for CNN to report on these brutal numbers.
Look at how bad these numbers are for the president. Only 4 in 10 Americans, 41% at the moment, approve of his job performance. Nearly 6 in 10, 58% disapprove. That's a tough number early in a midterm election year for the president of the United States. Now, why is this happening? This is fascinating. We asked people, what has President Biden done for you that you approve of? 56% of Americans, nearly 6 in 10 Americans. That means a decent amount of Democrats said nothing. They disapprove of everything that has happened.
You know, Geraldo, I am personally embarrassed by anyone who has to defend this awful, abysmal presidency. He should probably either be impeached or we should invoke the 25th Amendment. I would be personally embarrassed for anybody who disagreed with that, Geraldo. Personally embarrassed.
You sound so... I won't say it, but I will say this.
I did it!
You can't say it.
He will say this. I will say this. This president, and you just saw him struggling to communicate right there.
Right.
A lot of his problem is that he cannot communicate. True. He is an old man who sounds like an old man. And when you have problems from Afghanistan to inflation to COVID to everything else to deal with, you have to be able to tell the American people with verve and elan and charisma that they're going to be okay. And when he talks, he tends to mumble around to his microphone and look around and forget the guy's name again and here. And that, I think, is a lot of the problem is he may be a very substantive fellow, but he cannot portray that any confidence, and we need a confident president.
Yeah, I would agree with him. He doesn't instill any confidence, Judge. I mean...
The man has never had a plan for anything.
Yeah.
He came into office and he said he was going to unite the country. He didn't unite the country at all. And then, he said, I think it was on December 10th, he said inflation was a bump in the road. Well, it's about to crack all our skulls at this point going forward. And the other thing is, this man has a socialist plan to solve America's financial problems. Okay? He's got $1 trillion COVID bill that's not even being used for COVID. The latest is they're taking $30 million out to buy crack pipes to make them safe, to give them away to people when it should be used for COVID.
That's a Hunter initiative.
But that's a separate issue. I just want to finish this. When asked what he did that people approve of, 56% couldn't think of one thing they approve of. You know why? Because the guy ran from the basement. The whole thing, it was a Trojan horse, it was a fraud, and you know what? He should have to have some kind of cognitive test, and the 25th Amendment should kick in. And that's all I have to say.
If we should all volunteer to take a cognitive test.
I would.
No, I'm not. Oh, too risky. Too many hits to the head, Geraldo.
Yeah, too many hits of something.
Yeah, thank you, Greg.
Do you notice when Joe sinks worse and worse into this muck, Jesse, the media does more stories on Trump. Now it's like Trump flushed paper down a toilet. Yeah. That's like raging all over on the other networks.
Right. The lower Joe goes, the higher Trump goes up on their headlines.
Yes.
I really think he's in the 20s. And let me explain why. It is a crime to be a Democrat president in this day and age and be anywhere near the 30s. So right. You have Soros money. You have big tech. You have big labor. You have everything. It's like being 6'10" and not being able to dunk. Just you get an inch off the ground and you're in. And the man can't get an inch off the ground.
You white guys can't jump.
That's true. That is true.
Racist.
I can't even get a half an inch. But that's true. That's good stereotyping. We approve of that. What happened here is not only did Biden fall not once, not twice, but 3 times up the stairs. Not only is his son under criminal investigation for Chinese money laundering, not only is the border wide open right now, Americans' lives are so expensive. You put that on top of their more dangerous, and you have a guy who's, I'm not going to say it like Geraldo, but this guy is in so much trouble. The Democrats are starting to sound like Republicans. They say they want to cut the gas taxes now to help Americans before the midterms.
They'll do anything, right, Dana?
Idea.
at this
Well,
point?
that was two very vulnerable Democrats, Mark Kelly and Maggie Hassan from New Hampshire and Arizona, because they realized that they got to do something because they have to find a way to separate themselves from President Biden. This past weekend, after the jobs numbers on Friday were better than people expected, there were all these articles that ran about Joe Biden's comeback and how this was all going to start. And then you had these numbers that came out today. Perhaps they lag, but I think that the CNN numbers, those are pretty bad. And it's a very interesting question that they asked. Can you name one thing that he did for you? And 56% of people say no. The other thing is, it's just their timing is so bad. Today, he makes Abigail Spanberger have this event down in Virginia with him. And the sign behind him is Build Back Better, and it says lowering costs for families. On the day, the inflation number was coming out. Now, they know the day that the inflation number is coming out. You could have, held that or changed the sign or something.
I think the sign said,
timing is weird.
Build crack better. That was the sign.
How do you do that?
Build back crack.
But you know what? Speaking of crack, we have 100,000 overdoses a year now, and it's almost all fentanyl. Fentanyl. If Biden actually attacked that and appointed Hunter, who has a relationship with China, we know, and understands drug addiction, to fight the fentanyl scourge, that would be massive. That would be something. What do you think, Dana? That's one of your ideas.
I think that's. I'm going to put that in my Great Point Journal.
Thank you. I know Joe watches this show.
The sarcasm was dripping from that.
I hope it's sarcasm.